eIGRP, OSPF, IS2IS are examples of interior gateway routing protocols. BGP is an exterior gateway routing protocol. What it means, it is designed to run over very large networks. BGP runs the internet, for example, and that's a very large network. In this first video, I'm going to successfully establish BGP session between two routers. BGP uses TCP for communication, so in order to establish session, it is going to exchange SYN ACK first, then it's going to send an open message, open confirm, and finally it is going to establish adjacency. But for this to happen, we need to manually specify who our neighbor is. Unlike OSPF or eIGRP or IS2IS, BGP does not exchange hello packets the way we've seen so far. It needs to be told who the neighbor is, and it tries to establish TCP session over destination port 179, just like a regular client-server communication. For this to happen, obviously they need to be reachable. So in this first video, I'm going to use a successful attempt to establish BGP session between R1 and R2 in AS500 over the link E0/0.12, and in the next one I'm gonna show how important neighbor statement is in that particular situation. So let's go here real quick and do the successful session establishment. We start with the global config mode on both modes, and the router BGP 500 is my autonomous system number. Here's the good news. Once it's created on the router, it can only run one AS number. So if I make a mistake now, I'll say router BGP on the same box 200. It's gonna yell at me saying BGP is already running, and if you have used 500, not 200 AS number. So router BGP 500. And now, how do I tell this box who my neighbor is? So my neighbor will be 10.1.12.2. Now that's important to know what's going to happen next. So if I say neighbor 10.1.12.2, I need to specify remote AS, and 500 is going to be my peer in. So that means if my BGP autonomous system number is 500, my peer or neighbor is also 500, I'm going to form something called iBGP or internal BGP link, as opposed to external BGP or eBGP. There are some differences, obviously, we'll get to those later. Now, here's what is going to happen. At this point, this guy is trying to, R1 is trying to establish TCP connection by sending SYN packet, expecting SYN ACK, and finally ACK should be sent from R1 to R2. Is it happening now? Well, it is, but it's not successful. The reason it's not successful is because R2 has not been configured to respond to that TCP. There is no routing process BGP AS500 created on it just yet. Meanwhile, just to see that happen, let's just go to conft. I'm going to create temporarily access control list 100, which allows TCP from any source to any destination port equal 179. So if I were the client sending to 179 port TCP SYN packet, I'm a client here towards the server, this is going to be capturing that permit, of course. Capture those packets in the debug, and if the response comes from 179 back to my port, then the port's TCP source would equal 179, and destination is any destination address and any port. That'll do. I'm going to use this now in the debug. Obviously this is the lab, so I can use debug IP packets without any penalty. On the production system, that's a completely different story. So let's now, with this access control list, I'm going to use debug IP packet detail using access list 100. And you all undebug all, get ready when the output shows on the screen. Okay, undebug all. So I am sending packet from 10.1.12.1 towards destination 10.1.12.2. So if we look at this show run section router BGP. That's exactly what I told my router to do. Hey, send the packet, TCP SYN packet, towards 10.1.12.2. Now the source port, source IP address here, local, is 10.1.12.1. Why is that? Because in order to reach my neighbor 10.1.12.2, I'm going to be using my Ethernet 0.12 directly connected network, and that one has the source 10.1.12.1. That's why my source packet is 10.1.12.1. I'm sending TCP SYN packet, that's a SYN packet. Source port is 50,612. Destination is well-known BGP destination port 179. What I'm getting from the remote end back from 179 back to my 56.12 is acknowledgement for reception of SYN packet and reset, because nothing has been configured there. Once it's configured though, so let's just go back here to R2 and configure this. So I need to be sending now packets from source 10.1.12.2 towards 10.1.12. So that's also directly connected network. So now I need to complete router BGP, and my neighbor is going to be 10.1.12.2 before I actually do that. So if my neighbor do show IP around 10.1.12.1 is going to be my neighbor, I'm going to be using my outgoing interface according to the routing table, this one. So show run interface, how about do, and my source is going to be 10.1.12.2, which is correct because inside my show run section router BGP, that's exactly what I'm expecting to receive. I expect to receive the packet source by 10.1.12.2, and that is what's going to happen if I send the packet out that interface towards 10.1.12.1. So now neighbor 10.1.12.1 remote AS is also 500. They need to match. Obviously, I need to spell this correctly. So my neighbor, okay, let's just see the whole configuration. Do show run section router BGP. So meanwhile, what happened was I did receive proper SYNAC and ACK between those guys, and now we're up and running. How do I verify that it actually is running correctly, that the BGP session has been established? Well, if I do show IP BGP summary, one way of telling that is the state is empty here. Currently I have not received any prefixes because I haven't advertised any prefixes just yet. The session is now up for 26 seconds. So the Autonomous System 500, my neighbor is in 500. It's version 4, number of messages received, send, table version, nothing in the queue, in or out, nothing pending, send to send update. Now we're good. Another way of doing that is show IP BGP neighbor command, and that one provides a long output, but what I want to look at here is two things here. First of all, the BGP state is established, up for 1 minute and 3 seconds, all good. And then we have formed an internal link, means iBGP or internal BGP. That means that we both belong to the same AS 500. In the next video, I'm going to actually show what happens if I don't do this neighbor statement correctly and how it manifests itself in the debug.